it's very hard for New Yorkers to come to things like this on a Saturday morning. Am I correct? Yes, it's very hard. And so for those of you who were able to make it out here, thank you very much for being here. And to Coyote, I really have to congratulate you, your irrepressible nature in sort of driving the conversations. I think that sometimes we don't really get the import of conversations in society, and yet it is through conversations that ideas are generated. And as ideas flourish, we see the choices of people around decisions better informed. And there's no better group of people that can lead really important intellectual conversations like the one we're having today than people in the diaspora of America, from our country, Nigeria. And I start by saying to you that I have a mantra that in God I trust, but every other person must bring data. So I'd like to start off with data. Official records show, according to a research that was done about Nigerians who are in America, it says something of there being about 774,000 Nigerians in America. I think it's much more than that. 774,000 if we walk Nigerians in America. I think it's much more than that. I don't know that is right eventually, so there's no problem. I'm going to keep quiet until it is fixed. I think it's much more than that. I don't know that is right eventually. Frankly, we should applaud them for doing this. I mean, it's a bold and courageous move to transmit live, from New York this morning into Nigeria. There are many moving parts that can go wrong at any point in time, so not bad at all. Can we continue? Oh, excellent. Okay. So this data by American Community Survey says that, actually I was wrong earlier, that 712,294 residents of the USA as of 2022 were seen to be of Nigerian ancestry. I think it should be much more than that, but even if we worked with a number that is that close to 1 million, that's a significant population of Nigerians in one country, considering that our latest population data is about 227 million of us. And there are many countries around the face of the earth where you can find Nigerians. When you think of the number of Nigerians in Europe, the number of them in other parts of our continent, you then realize how significant this population is. Now, another piece of data that I'd like you to know is that in America, the first generation Nigerian Americans are super educated. Super educated. That's the way it was actually stated in the literature that I was reading about this. 63% of first-generation Nigerian immigrants in the United States are college educated. It's amazing. It says, in comparison, 40.1% of non-Hispanic whites have bachelor's degree or higher degrees. Compare that to 63%. All right? It says blacks of Asians and 19% of Hispanics. It's an incredible data to see that the larger concentration of educated ethnic immigrants in this country are Nigerians. That's an incredible record. And we know why. It's because the Nigerian is not wanting to be anything less than what they think, they can be, So you have this phrase where Nigerians say, he is whatever he thinks he is, So Nigerians are whatever they think they are. And so this data is interesting. Now look at the second generation of Nigerian Americans. In their own case, it says that they are more highly concentrated at the upper levels more than any other group. For example, among second generation Asian men, 7.3% obtain a PhD or professional degrees compared to 14% for second generation Nigerian Americans. It's amazing. This kind of data don't usually make it to mainstream media. And so the assumption is often to associate Nigerians with an insignificant percentage that really bring bad rap, as they say, to us. But this is the kind of data that's so meaningful. And it says that the group of the highest level of educational attainment is second generation Nigerian American women. This piece of data really meant a lot to me when I read it. It says 71% have bachelor's or higher degrees compared to 68.2% for second generation Nigerian American men. So our women are actually more in number in getting higher levels of education in this country. This is important because just knowing that you have this profile of people out of our country, living in this country, similarly, that's what you find in Europe. That's what you find in the UK. That's what you find in some countries in Asia these days, more and more. And it's important for me because as one who had been in the field of international development, I can speak to the matter of the diaspora very well. First time that I did something about diaspora was when I was a student and then a staff of someone that some of you know, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, over at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. He was fascinated by the idea of so many African academics that he was beginning that were all over the US, even at that time, and this was talking about in the 90s. And so, as we began to think of Africa's poor growth and the necessity to tackle the capacity problem, he asked that we should organize an event for diaspora, top-level diaspora. And so I had to begin to find them across the United States. And about 20 of such came to have a meeting at Harvard in those 90s. That was my first effort on diaspora. And then my second journey in America, when I came back again and was vice president of the World Bank for Africa region in Washington, D.C., I basically said to our team, there is no way we can talk of improving development in Africa without the African diaspora. What has happened is that incentive to live at home went in the other direction. And so they voted with their feet and came out and are concentrated with their knowledge outside of Africa if we do not take charge of, or fully integrate the knowledge that they bring into our development process, we are not doing it right. And so I think it was 2007, 2008, we launched the diaspora program at the World Bank during my time there. And the rest, as they say, became history. Because within the field of international development, we suddenly saw a lot of effort and attention. We actually partnered with the Africa Union, which then named the diaspora the 6th region of the African continent. And then we decided to work with them on a diaspora institute within the programs of the Africa Union. So on the diaspora matter, it's not just intellectual for me. It is something that really goes to the heart of whether we can take action by taking advantage of the resources that they represent. And since I have said the word resources, I need to tell you that my frame of reference for solving any problem is that when people say we need resources to solve the problem, what do you think they immediately are thinking of? They are thinking of money. And that's the saddest thing you can do to yourself, to assume that the only resource that is important, if only I can get money, then my problem will be solved. That's not true. So I have a different way of looking at resources. There are 3 resources that you need in order to solve a development problem. Number 1, you need partnership. Number 2, you need knowledge. And then number 3, you need money. So it's number 1, partnership. Number 2, knowledge, before money comes as a distant number 3. So what do you think the diaspora represents? The diaspora represents these 3 resources I just spoke about. The diaspora is an incredible community of people with all kinds of partnerships, in the sense that for anyone, if I should look at the gentleman right in front of me, and I asked him, how many affiliations do you have institutionally and even on individual, personal, person-to-person, P2P, you would be surprised, the gamut. If I did a canvassing of your partnership profile, it would lead me to all kinds of organizations that would take Nigeria many years to be able to reach, but simply because of you, they are unlocked. So partnership is a huge resource that the diaspora of our continent bring to the matter of how we fix our problems. Partnership gives you leverage beyond anything you can do by yourself. There are institutions, there are organizations, there are communities within the United States that a single Nigerian who's lived here and amongst them will quicker open the doors to than the ambassador that we have sent to the United States. So understanding that makes us look at our diaspora entirely differently. And in the sense that you have just heard that educational attainment and success, professional success, that Nigerian diaspora are at the top of it, you can then imagine the quality of partnerships that they can unlock for the country. Okay? The quality of the partnership they can unlock for the country. Then the second thing that I said is a resource is what? I want to be assured that you guys are awake. Because sometimes you can be speaking to an audience that is busy sleeping or thinking about cost of living. I know. So knowledge. Think of it. If the percentage we just saw that are attaining higher grades levels of education, minimum bachelor's, and then you see the profile of the attainment in higher degrees and PhDs and masters. That tells you the humongous reservoir of knowledge. You know, in solving problems of development, there's nothing more important than knowledge. Knowledge. The how to. When you see disparities in solving problems, the immediate thing you should consider is that one party figured out how to solve it, the other party is still struggling to figure out how to solve it. In between those two parties, what do we have? It's knowledge. It's the quotient of knowledge on which the two parties are operating. Now, if we have a diaspora community that is this educated, they are outside of home, what do you think we should do? We should recognize that we have this massive pool of knowledge and it should matter to us. We should organize it in the way that that knowledge is available. And, you know, we normally say that knowledge is fungible. Knowledge is fungible in the sense that, you know, you can move knowledge of how you solve the particular problem into solving another problem. The fungibility of knowledge gives you such incredible possibilities. And for us as a continent, understanding that, as a country, Nigeria, understanding that means that we would be unrestricted in the way that we are adopting knowledge from our diaspora. And then the third thing, finance. On the finance thing, we go to data again. Data shows that averagely over the last decade, at least $21 to $22 billion per annum is taken into Nigeria as diaspora money. Even though a lot of it goes to being social protection, as in social safety net for the families you left at home. But imagine that there were a design system that converts that money into part investment and part consumption for the families. That would be massive. Now, $21 to $22 billion per annum, what they represent is almost 9 times foreign direct investment into Nigeria. So you're the real investors, if that is to be so called. And then it represents almost 60%, maybe 50 now, of the total government revenue. I hope you know that Nigeria's total government revenue annually is anything between $30 billion to $40 billion. So this is significant to be receiving that kind of money, you know, from the diaspora. It also is indicative of what is possible. Now, you've got partnerships, you've got knowledge, you've got massive injection of money into the economy of Nigeria, but you don't have voice. Because that's what we've come to discuss. The fact that you've got these 3 things, but you don't have voice. You don't have voice in terms of the constitutional right of a citizen to vote in a democracy. Many countries solved that problem by simply saying the fact that our diaspora have decided that they want to continue to maintain relationship with home is a sufficient basis to consider them people who should have the right to vote. Now, why is it especially important for you to have the right to vote? Your level of educational attainment is important for improving the quality of democracy and the democratic practices. When the diaspora with this level of education and the level of exposure I know the American democracy is currently struggling, but there are things that the American democracy succeeded in achieving that are still almost unattainable for us. And yet, you know those things. So with your voice, with the power to vote, and the necessity of you voting and demanding accountability, our democracy begins to mature. To disengage you from that process of determining governance in the country is really self-defeating. We cannot self-sabotage ourselves by simply saying, you've left the country, goodbye. Face the country you have embraced. No, there can be two worlds in which you operate. And many countries that have enacted diaspora rights to vote did it on that simple understanding that there is value to voting rights by their diaspora. The effort that has been made, as a matter of fact, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Ereyo, I think I got that last one. Erewa, I knew it wasn't your Erewa. She was very phenomenal on the matter of diaspora voting when she was a member of the House. From that moment, she's been a voice on the matter of diaspora. She really has. And we must acknowledge her. Please, can you clap? Why do yes. When people do the right thing, we must acknowledge them. She did. And she pushed it. She got so much pushback on it. She didn't make the kind of what you call it, progress that could have happened if everybody backed her. And now she's head of the Commission on Diaspora, and she's continuing to push. And she's learned some lessons from what happened in the previous era. And she's doing it differently and being strategic in building coalitions to push on this agenda. And now we have people like Senator Ned Nwoko, who is also pushing on the agenda. Coalitions are important. But let me tell you, the diasporans, listen, you have to sustain your energy on this matter. You are the primary beneficiaries of this right to vote. Many of you think that the money you send home is enough. Take it and just leave me alone. Well, the truth is, the extent of the respect that this society would have for you is dependent on whether Nigeria becomes a well-governed country. And so, for Nigeria to become a well-governed country, we must improve the quality of our democracy. For us to improve the quality of our democracy, we need the kind of knowledge, the kind of partnership, the kind of resources that you bring into the national conversation. I thank you very much for listening.